Welcome back to another episode of the MacRumors Show. Happy holidays to everyone that's listening to this in the US, or I guess maybe if you have taken Thanksgiving from America abroad and you're still celebrating it, then happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Hartley, I know this is just a normal Friday for you. Well, our Thanksgiving's on Thursday, but then we have Black Friday. So everybody just kind of takes off. It's just like a really long holiday weekend. How are you spending your holiday weekend?
Well, it's not really a holiday weekend.
Well, sure, but you just told me that you were taking a holiday weekend.
Well, yeah, I am going on vacation for a weekend to Malta, which should be quite fun. But I will not be taking my new toy with me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I asked you right before we hit record, we have to do our Vision Pro check-in since 2 weeks ago you bought one. And you smiled and kind of looked at me like something was wrong. So I'm just going to come out and say it. You returned it again, didn't you?
I haven't returned it yet.
Come on, man.
I probably will return it.
Dude, why? All right, explain.
So I will start by saying that I think that the M5 Vision Pro and Vision OS 26 make the Vision Pro a much more compelling offering than when I last tried it the summer of last year when it went on sale in the UK. But I have now gone 4 days and not used it.
Okay. You have a
so
trip
I used
up.
it a lot.
Can you take it with you, or is it past you have to make your decision?
I could take it with me because I think I'm in the holiday returns period now.
Well, then do that.
The issue with travel is it's just so big. Like you'd have to take portable batteries with it as well because that battery life is really not sufficient. So this presents quite a significant problem for travel. You know, when you take your hand luggage, I would want to take my iPad, my MacBook Pro, my iPhone, my AirPods Max, and so on, as well as everything else that you would normally want to take for travel. So the idea of taking the headset as well, plus batteries, it's too much to carry around. So I think it is not maybe the best travel device.
I feel like everyone always yells at me saying that it is the best travel device and that you should definitely try bringing it because it makes the plane experience so much better. But I understand what you mean. I also have not taken it with me because it is so much extra stuff to put in your bag. But like overall, you don't think that there's ever going to be a time where you'll want to use it at home?
There definitely are those times. So immersive video is still incredible. I really enjoy that. I also find working in it considerably easier now due to the added comfort with the new headband, the slight improvement in foveated rendering and refresh rate, and even just load times for everything just reduces that amount of friction to make it more usable. I definitely have been able to get entire days of work done in this headset, compared to the original one, which I just could not do that in. I struggled to keep it on for more than 30 minutes, whereas this one I have been able to sit through an entire movie quite comfortably. But it definitely, what it's shown to me is that the discomfort issues are more than just the weight. For me, for example, I watched a movie before going to bed one night. The next day when I woke up, my eyes felt sore. In a way that they wouldn't have done if I just watched that movie on my iPad. Was it dramatically better than watching it on my iPad? Not really. And there's something about, I feel like people talk about the way in which the experience is isolating quite a lot in a social context, but there's also the sense in which it is isolating in just disconnecting you from the real world. And there is something quite nice about just working on your laptop in your own environment, where your eyes can rest a little bit rather than being in this digital environment that feels very artificial. And I think that causes a lot of additional eye strain and sort of grogginess, which I haven't enjoyed.
So you have tried doing like not a full day of work, but like a couple hour work session with it.
Yeah, I've worked in it for, I think I did about 4 hours uninterrupted without taking it off. And I was able to publish some articles for the site and that get a decent amount of work done. This was just not possible for me with the original model. So there is undoubtedly an improvement, and some people will be able to get more utility out of it now, especially in combination with the new headband. But for me, I think it's just a little bit too much of a tall order, because the travel use case has pretty much been eliminated for me on account of it's just too much to physically take. And then the use case at home, I've realized that it is more comfortable to just watch movies with my TV or my iPad. And then even for work, I am happier just using my laptop and feeling less isolated. So although undoubtedly I would still pick it up and use it occasionally, I can't see myself really using it more than maybe once a month going forward. And that isn't enough to justify its cost. So I think it's probably going back.
Not even gaming? I will say, I just got in the PS VR controllers, and that does make a difference. Not only just in gaming and like stuff like that, but like just in everyday use. It's kind of nice to have the controllers where you don't have to use your hand. I know you're not supposed to put your hand up when you're selecting things, but it's so hard not to do that. Like, have you gotten used to keeping your hands down by your side?
Sometimes, yes, but at other times you just feel tempted to kind of reach up and be more decisive with your gestures. There is a big temptation for that. I can't say I've really done a huge amount of gaming with it since I received this new model, not least because there aren't that many games available. It's one of the big weaknesses of the platform. And I feel like it's one of the bigger problems that Vision OS has in general. It's not as such that there isn't, people talk like about a killer app or something. I think it basically has that with things like Mac Virtual Display and Immersive Video. I think those are those utilities. But the App Store itself is pretty weak. There are not that many compelling and unique experiences in a way that I think Apple hoped there would be. I think that when Apple debuted the Vision OS App Store, they were hoping that there would be a bunch of spatial games on there that would be effectively equivalent to what you would get on a VR headset. But they're just really not there. And a lot of the games that are on there are pretty much just flat iPad versions of these games, which are fun, and you can make them really big, and they have some optimizations for touch, for hand gestures. But, I mean, you can do Fruit Ninja in the air in front of you, but, I mean, I don't want to spend my evenings putting that thing on and just swiping at the air if I was going to play a game.
I need a live video feed of, like, your apartment and you just doing that through just by yourself, waving around.
Yeah, I think that's a one time and never again for me.
So I guess I don't know why I'm shocked about this. Like, guys should have seen this coming. But also I just thought maybe this was it because you were so excited to get it again and try it out. If anyone's shocked, let us know in the comments. But Hartley, I guess, he hasn't done it yet, but is most likely returning the M5 Vision Pro. So feel free to roast him in the comments if that's what you need to do. And before we get into the main topic of today's show, I just want to take a quick minute to talk about today's sponsor. Just want to take a quick break to let you know this episode of the podcast is sponsored by Uncommon Goods. Holiday shopping is officially here, and Uncommon Goods takes the stress out of gifting with thousands of unique, high-quality finds you won't see anywhere else. Don't wait. The most meaningful gifts get scooped up fast, and now is the perfect time to cross names off of your list. So here at the MacRumors Show, we're obviously testing new tech, new accessories, new everything. And so when something genuinely pops up, especially for a gift, it really stands out. And Uncommon Goods is full of those, wait, that's actually an amazing kind of gift. I found this handmade customizable sound wave. It's like a little art piece on the site. You upload a voice memo, maybe your kid saying I love you, or any kind of special song, or even the Mac startup chime, if that's a nostalgia moment for you, and you can turn it into a framed print. It's personal, it's thoughtful, and it's the kind of thing you cannot just go and grab at any big box store. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made right here in the US. Many are crafted by independent artists and small businesses, making every gift feel meaningful and truly one of a kind. When you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. Many of their handcrafted products are just made in small batches, so you kind of have to shop now before they sell out for the holiday season. And every purchase you make, Uncommon Goods gives back $1 to a nonprofit of your choice. They've donated more than $3.1 million to date. So don't wait. Cross the names off your list before the holiday rush. Get 15% off your next gift. Just go to uncommongoods.com/Mac. That's uncommongoods.com/Mac, MAC, for 15% off. Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary. All right, so today's main topic is the iPad, but specifically the iPad mini, which I feel like has like a really strong fan base. Like those who like the iPad mini are really passionate about the iPad mini. And so the rumors about the next generation are kind of interesting because this reminds me of the times where we say, if Apple only made an iPhone like mini Pro, I feel like some of the specs for the iPad mini that are rumored are kind of like an iPad Pro, but just in a smaller version. Like the biggest rumor is that this new model is going to get an OLED display. Like that's a pretty big, I mean, there's no other iPad besides the iPad Pro that carries an OLED display. So can you give us a little bit more insight into what Apple might be thinking about this and how they're going about this kind of update to the iPad mini?
So this is part of Apple's wider rollout of OLED displays in its product lineup. So the first OLED display that Apple debuted was in the Apple Watch back in 2015. And it subsequently expanded to several other product lines, coming most notably to the iPhone with the iPhone X in 2017. And of course, we last year finally got it on an iPad for the first time with the iPad Pro. But it has never come to a Mac, nor has it come to an external display or any other Apple devices. So it's time now really for this technology to start moving throughout the lineup. More and more competitors are offering OLED displays across a variety of devices. And it does provide visually better fidelity. They tend to be more efficient. And of course, they have much deeper blacks because each individual pixel can be shut off in a way that you can't do with LCD backlighting, which illuminates the whole display, which leaves your dark grays and blacks kind of washed out in a way that you can't get the same level of contrast as you would with an OLED display. And it looks like this is going to happen next year with the MacBook Pro. And also with the iPad mini. And then further in the future, we are expecting it also to come to the iPad Air, probably a year after that. And then subsequently other devices like the MacBook Air until we really have OLED across pretty much all of Apple's devices, which is, I think, a really meaningful quality of life improvement that a lot of people will really appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's nice to get those displays all up in a consistent manner. I just feel like this makes the iPad mini just a bit more pro-like. But I know everyone's going to get it at some point. But like this is going to intrigue some people, I feel like, for sure, because it's a part of a wider rollout, like you said. But obviously, that's not all happening right away. So I wonder, who is going to jump on this device who might not have jumped on it earlier. Would you buy this and then return it, Hartley? Just
yeah, that's usually the way.
Does this? I mean, what iPad do you use currently? You use a smaller iPad
I currently
Pro?
use the 11-inch iPad Pro, but I used to have a combination of the 13-inch iPad Pro and an iPad Mini.
Okay.
And when it came to be time to upgrade my iPad Pro, I thought I would actually sell both iPads and just go to this one size. But I am intrigued by a more Pro iPad mini. I think one of the bigger questions around it is whether it will have ProMotion. We're not clear on that right now. I expect it probably won't, which would be disappointing.
Has Apple ever made an OLED display? I was going to say, has Apple ever made an OLED display without a 120 hertz refresh rate?
No, I don't. Well, it did because that's what it offered on the iPhone before it got it on the iPhone 13 Pro.
That's
But
true.
in recent times, no. There's an argument either way. On the one hand, Apple has just expanded ProMotion across the iPhone 17 lineup and has kind of, for the first time, offered that higher refresh rate on cheaper entry-level devices or mid-range devices as well. But at the same time, and for the sake of differentiation and not cannibalizing the sales of the iPad Pro, there may be a case of saying, well, the display upgrade here is so significant that we will first go to OLED and then we will go to ProMotion at a later date. I don't know. I don't know why. I just have a hunch that they're not going to give it ProMotion. But it would be nice if they did. I think a lot of people will complain if it doesn't.
I was going to say, then that takes my theory of this becoming like a slightly smaller version of the, well, not slightly smaller, a mini version of the iPad Pro kind of wipes away if you don't give it ProMotion. So it probably won't, although now all the iPhones have ProMotion. So it's technically no longer a, specific Pro feature, at least for the iPhones. For the iPad, it definitely still is. But I don't know. I feel like adding that in there would kind of boost sales for the iPad mini. For those who maybe wanted an iPad Pro and just kind of, went with the 11-inch because it was the smaller one, but would have liked to have seen maybe that. What's the size now? Is it 8 inches, 7 inches? Somewhere in that?
Yeah, I think it's 7.3, I think, something like that.
Yeah, something around there. So, yeah, what else can we expect with the new iPad mini? Oh, water resistance. That's another interesting one. How often? Well, I guess if you watch content like in the bath or something, I don't know. You probably want your iPad mini. If it was to fall in, that would be a pretty, horrible thing to happen. I kind of figured that most of them already had some sort of water resistance. So this would be new then.
Yes. So there has never been waterproofing on the iPad.
Yeah.
None of them have any level of water resistance rating, just like the Mac. So it is pretty significant that Apple would finally do that for this device. And I think it is the device that it makes the most sense for it to do that with, because it is the most mobile iPad. It's the iPad you're most likely to throw in a bag or get caught in the rain with, or even use, in the bathroom. So it's also interesting that Amazon have leaned into water resistance on tablets and e-readers, and has many times you see it implied in their promotional materials that one of the biggest selling points of using a Kindle over an iPad is that you can use it when you're in the bathtub. And I think that if you want to buy an iPad to read ebooks, the iPad mini is that device. And OLED definitely is an improvement for that and would make text much, much crisper, especially if you used a black background on white text. And so maybe that's what you want to do. And water resistance would be a step in the right direction and an additional selling point in a way of improving the device.
I could just see it now. A mount right in my shower. Perfect for watching TV and spending countless hours in there when you just need to get in and out. Yeah, I mean, I kind of keep forgetting that the iPad kind of hasn't done that, even though it definitely could. This is a good step in that direction. What about the vibration speaker system? Would you like to elaborate more on why that is a big deal?
So this is really interesting, and it's sort of related to this waterproofing. So Apple is developing a new speaker system that uses the front of the display and vibrating it to create sound waves and function as a speaker. So it's a totally different speaker design. It's something that they've poured a lot of resources into, and I think they filed some patents related to this technology as well. But the reason this is interesting is because, of course, you don't need to do that to achieve waterproofing. The iPhone doesn't do that, and they've been waterproof, or at least water resistant, for years. Mm-hmm. So it looks like Apple's kind of using the iPad mini as a test ground for this new speaker system, which presumably, if it's successful, we will see rolled out to other iPad models. I assume to probably the iPad Air after that, maybe the iPad Pro, and maybe even eventually the iPhone, because you don't need to have the gaskets and seals, because the whole system is sealed up to begin with. There are no points of ingress if it is just vibrating the frame to create those sound waves, a little bit like conduction speakers.
Yeah, you think this is going to impact the sound quality at all? Potential, volume? Is that going to have like a little bit more of a peak? Now, there are 4 speakers, I believe, right? 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom.
I think there's only 2. There's only 2 on the iPad mini. The iPad Pro has 4. 1 in each corner, but the iPad Air and iPad Mini only have dual speakers.
Oh, there's two, but it's still top and bottom. I'm sorry, I got confused there. Yes,
they put speaker grills there to make it look like there are 4, but there are only 2.
Yeah, I got again by Apple there and their uniform design. I mean, I guess this is a cheaper way probably to, if it can improve quality, then this might be a better way to, instead of adding 2 extra speakers, maybe this will help improve and then help with the waterproofing as well. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those changes that doesn't really sway me in any way. It's nice to have. It leads to other bigger purpose.
It's new. It's a brand new feature. And maybe it won't sound as good as the existing speakers, but this is an opportunity for Apple to roll something out in a smaller volume before putting it on other devices. And if this means that eventually we have 4 of these systems on the iPad Pro, and the iPad Pro is water resistant, we're probably not that far away from putting it on the Mac and having a water resistant MacBook Air. So it's a step in the right direction. I think Apple is doing some interesting things with audio. I think its audio team goes a little bit unrecognized, but some of the things that they have done with like the sound profile of the HomePod Mini is incredibly impressive. I also think that the integrated speakers in things like the Mac and the Studio Display are incredibly impressive. And the one that has blown me away the most in recent years are the audio pods in the Vision Pro. Because, of course, that's an open-ear design. And while, of course, they don't sound as good as a pair of AirPods Max, they are really good. The spatial audio on them is outstanding.
I would say if I wasn't in public, I don't need anything else. I don't think I would need to put in AirPods or anything. If I'm in public, obviously you want to isolate that sound so you're not disturbing others. But those are you're right. Computational audio, the team behind the hardware and the software is excellent. I have a Studio Display setup that I did a video on recently, and I put no speakers, and people were like, why don't you have desktop speakers? I'm like, you don't need it. For like daily use for the Studio Display, it's perfectly fine for watching videos, listening to some music. And then if you want more or better quality, throw on a pair of headphones and you're good to go. But like, gone are the days of really needing, with at least some of these Apple products, insane external speakers, which is always nice. What else is nice is that Apple doesn't skimp out on the specs for an iPad mini. Though it is a cheaper device and not technically Pro, you are going to be getting the A19 Pro, which is the you're going to get the version from the iPhone Air, I believe. So you'll get 1 less GPU core, but like, I don't think anyone's going to care about that. And the other internal change is that you should be getting the C1X and N1 chips. So I think those are a big deal. I mean, I don't know how much that's going to sway the average consumer, and they'll just be like, yeah, it's the new iPad mini. It should be fine for me. But the iPads, they're all just so powerful, whether it's running an M chip or not. Like, it's still very impressive hardware.
I agree. I think that this chip bump is more significant than some of the ones we've seen in the past, because the first redesigned iPad mini had the A15 Bionic, and then we waited 2 years, and then we got the A17 Pro, which enabled Apple Intelligence. But now the iPad OS is quite rich in its multitasking capabilities, and you do really need to have quite a competent chip to be able to do that. And while the A17 Pro seems to be able to handle it, it could do better, especially if you're throwing up 4 different windows simultaneously, maybe with Slido. That is a lot to handle at once. And I think that there is a case for the iPad mini, which is one of the least powerful iPads, embracing this capability to have a more powerful chip. And this right now is the latest generation. They always drop that extra GPU core. They've done that on every iPad mini so far. It's just a way of using up those binned chips that didn't quite make it to a Pro iPhone. They either make it to an iPhone Air or now to one of the new iPad minis. So just making sure that less goes to waste.
Yeah. And I mean, it makes sense. And again, I urge you to prove that you notice any major differences between them, because I would say for most people, it's probably just something that flies under the radar, something that they don't even know. All right, before we round out the rest of the specs on what we're expecting with the new iPad mini, let's take another quick break to hear about another sponsor of today's episode. Hey guys, just want to take another quick break to let you know this episode of the MacRumors Show is also sponsored by Notion. There's only one of you, only so many hours, and only so much focus to go around. And here on the MacRumors Show, we are constantly juggling episode prep, scripts, notes, schedules, product comparisons. It all adds up. So having something that can work the way we do, but faster, has been a game changer. That's exactly what Notion and the new Notion Agent feels like. It's integrated right into our workspace, and honestly, tasks that used to take hours now just kind of happen in minutes. One of the biggest pain points for us has always been post-episode admin work, so pulling notes, tagging action items, dropping links into the Notion pages, all of the necessary but tedious work. Now my Notion agent just does it for us. It reads through our recording notes, organizes everything, and even the follow-ups for the next show. It's basically the producer we always wish we hired, but we never did. And it doesn't ever sleep and doesn't forget and works exactly the way we do. Notion brings all your notes, docs, and projects into one connected space that just works. It's seamless, it's flexible, it's powerful, and it's actually fun to use. With AI built right in, you spend less time switching between tools and more time creating great work. And now with Notion Agent, your AI doesn't just help with work, it finishes it. With a single prompt, Notion Agent forms a plan, it executes it, and will even reassess and try again if it hits a snag, completing multi-step tasks like creating new pages or databases from scratch, or simply editing them or summarizing entire projects in minutes. You assign the tasks, your agent does the work. Notion is used by over 50% of Fortune 500 companies, and some of the fastest growing companies like OpenAI, Ramp, and Versal use Notion Agent to help their teams send less emails, cancel more meetings, and stay ahead. So try Notion now with Notion Agent at notion.com/macrumors. That's all lowercase letters, notion.com/macrumors to try your new AI teammate, Notion Agent, today. And when you use our link, you're supporting our show. That's notion.com/macrumors. Thanks, Notion, for sponsoring this episode. All right, so are we expecting any major design changes or just any design changes by, way of this new iPad, or is it just going to be kind of ho-hum business as usual for the last few generations?
I think it's hard to say. Right now, there are no explicit rumors about a redesign. And yet, with a brand new panel and a brand new speaker system, I think it is inevitable that this is going to be the most substantially redesigned iPad, at least since the A15 version. Mm-hmm. So will there be a slightly thinner chassis? Maybe. I would hope so, especially if this design with the new speakers is going to stick around for a while. And of course, part of that is probably going to be some new color options. Yes, the iPad Mini's color options have been pretty consistent since the release of the current design. And I think that, if they were to release this in space black with the new OLED display and the new speaker system and the A19 Pro, I think that it would encapsulate that this is a little bit more of a formidable device than the ones that came before.
Okay. Might be a hot take. Maybe not. I think the colors on the iPad mini are really bad. On most of the iPads, they're just really bad. And maybe it's because I'm now spoiled after seeing some bright and vibrant aluminum casings for the new iPhone 17 Pro, and then the rumored ones that we talked about in last week's episode for the 18. And now I'm just like, all right, let's brighten these things up a little bit or give us some darker shades. What was the one year where maybe it was the iPad Air, where they all just look like different shades of lighter and darker gray?
Yeah, pretty much.
I can't take another year of that.
I think that, especially considering that the iPad Mini is a device that you're quite likely to maybe give kids or use as someone's first Apple device, it's a little strange that you don't get those fun color options there. But that's because the iPad Mini is really just a small iPad Air.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe it's not going to be anymore because it looks like this iPad mini is going in a completely different direction. When this comes out, it's going to actually have quite different hardware to any of the other iPads that are available.
Good.
So maybe that justifies new colors.
Perfect. I would like some different colors. This is Dan's wish list. If I wasn't the one editing this and we had an editor, I would tell them to put up a fancy, display that says Dan's wish list. Maybe some music too. I don't know. Anyways, number one, new colors that are better. No more different shades of gray. Number two, let's reduce the bezels a little bit. I know that won't happen, and that's kind of like a pro thing because apparently only pros need smaller bezels. Let's reduce the bezels a little bit. Number three, can we get a nano texture display? I think this is the one where it makes the most sense. If you're going to kind of put it as a, working device and an e-reader replacement, a matte display is just arguably better than any other type of display when it comes to reading content, especially. But that's why e-readers are e-ink displays. It just feels better to read on. It's just less, strain on your eyes, no reflections, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know. Do you agree with any of those?
I think that's a great point.
Yes.
Ultimately, the iPad mini is never going to be as good as a true e-ink display. But with OLED, a high level of contrast, and a nano texture, it's near on as close as you're going to get with a device that possesses a lot more utility. I think that would be incredibly popular among people that want to be able to not maybe carry two devices. They don't want to carry a Kindle and an iPad and want to have it all in one. So I really hope that feature comes to the iPad mini. I think Apple knows that it's been a little bit weak in offering a compelling e-reader competitor. I think it just sort of created Apple Books 15 years ago and just kind of left it there. But if they were to lean into this a little more, even if it was just saying, look, now you can read in the bathtub just like you can with a Kindle, and we're going to give you a nano texture display option, and it's got OLED, and maybe they could give the Books app a little bit of much needed attention as well, because that has definitely been left behind. I use it, but it's hard to navigate, especially things like audiobooks are kind of tucked away. Like it just needs to be thoroughly rethought, needs some new features. I think it would be a fantastic update, and a lot of people would be really interested in that.
And getting carried away on ideas, but you know what, Apple, I'll give you this one for free. Why is there not a reader mode like there is for game modes? Put it in read mode and it instantly eliminates distractions, adjusts display to your settings. Maybe it turns on a focus mode. In theory, you could just make a focus mode and do this, but also kind of going with that. And I know I'm straying a little bit, but why are there not pre-made focus modes that are like actually set up for things and useful? And how come, unlike shortcuts, how you can share shortcuts to people, why can't I share a created focus mode to you? Like maybe you don't want to go through all the pain that is setting up a focus mode, but you found somebody that, made a good one that like, oh, that makes sense for my life. I don't want to go through all of that though and make it. Like they should allow that level of like, oh, I can share this to somebody, or I can download this specific focus mode for reading and I don't have to set anything up. It just knows. I don't know. That's just something that popped into my head during this whole thing.
I hate to break it to you, Dan, but there is a reading focus mode that is Is it actually set up? Every device. Yeah.
No, but is it actually set up like where it knows these are the contexts?
If you swipe down to focus modes, it's there as a pre-made option that you just press add, and it adds that as your, and it knows what reading apps are. So then it will only activate when you open a reading app.
Never mind. Strike this from the conversation.
But the ability to share focus modes would be pretty cool.
Well, no, see, I guess I've never clicked on the reading one. Shows how much reading I do. But like the other ones, or when you go to create a new one, it's always just seems to be like pretty bare. You still have to go through the contacts and the apps and the notifications that you may or may not want. I'm talking like, I heard that you have one set up that immediately, your favorites are the people that are only allowed to get through. The apps that are specific to the setting. Maybe I'm deep in watching YouTube mode. I don't need any other distractions. I don't want anything to pop up. But I do want, some notifications from things that make sense. I know that you have to go through and kind of tailor this to your liking, but like, I don't know, they should be able to share those in some way. And then you can tweak, from there.
I've always wanted to do more with focus modes.
Yeah, same here.
It's just, they don't offer enough versatility. And I feel like the whole system kind of needs to be a little bit reconsidered. Because if you have a list of them that's so long that isolates different contacts at different times and different pages of the home screen, it's just too much, and creates too much fragmentation in your system, where if you wanted to maintain different lock screens, different watch faces, different email inboxes and different calendars that it shows, low power mode activates in some but not others. It creates such a lot of work to maintain these and set these up. I feel like you still want the ability to do those things, but there has to be a simpler and more straightforward way of doing that.
And I guess I shouldn't have backpedaled from my position, because what I was kind of trying to say was with the reader mode, that's strictly for like notifications and things. I'm talking also like in game mode, you get like a boost in performance and the display settings might adjust. Like that's what I'm talking about. Maybe we don't need 120 hertz. We drop down to, the lowest setting, or turns on low power, something to save battery because you're not doing anything. It automatically changes to, the warmer display option, which I know some of that already kind of happens in your settings with the Reader app, or with the Books app. What is it called? Books? I got to read more. I'm more of a, if I'm going to read something, it's going to be a physical book person, but I don't know. I also feel like because I don't know what I want to read, I am so like indecisive. I really need like a subscription type thing where you pay X amount of a month and you can do that. And I know those things kind of exist, but I feel like it's never like all the books. It's just a certain amount that are pre-selected for this, but I don't know. Because there's always something that I like, I want to read that. And it's never on the services that offer that. So I don't know.
Book kind of streaming services are not very good right now. I think I would love it if Apple would offer something a little bit like Apple Music, but for Apple Books, Apple Books Plus. But I don't see that they're ever going to be able to do that. I don't think there's enough money or interest in it. So they'll probably just let people just keep buying books one by one, which is fine. I mean, I don't read that many books as to need that. And if I was to break down how much I spend on books annually into a monthly subscription, it wouldn't be very much.
I wonder if they could do like a, 1 month gives you 10 books and you pay like X amount. You just buy 10 books, but you don't know what those books are going to be yet. But like it just gets, and you can choose whatever you want. It's a discounted flat rate. I don't think that'll ever happen. And neither will those, because of the royalties and the publishing and licensing. You'll never be able to pay everybody a fair amount than just buying the book. So it's going to stay this way. All right. Anyways, last thing on the iPad mini is now, because we're getting all of these changes and nicer, newer things. What do you think happens, Hartley? What happens when we get nice new things?
The price goes up.
Yep, 20% increase. So now we're expecting $599 start price. That immediately makes my interest levels go down the tubes.
I mean, it goes in line with these new features and tilting kind of more toward an iPad Pro. But it does make me wonder about the positioning of this device even more. I hope that they're not kind of doing repeating similar mistakes that they made with the iPad, with the iPhone Air, where it's this weird third option in the lineup that people are not too sure what to do with. Because let's say you do want to buy it for your kid as their first tablet. That's quite expensive now compared to just buying the entry-level iPad. But the entry-level iPad is quite big, and an iPad mini would be a more appropriate size. But then if you do have that extra cash to spend, why wouldn't you just buy an iPad Pro, which you could then use to get even more done, and actually will have additional Pro features like probably a better speaker system, Face ID, support for the Magic Keyboard accessory for a little. I say a little. I mean, I suppose it is quite a lot extra money, but compared to an iPad Air, at least, it does seem to be getting quite confused. But I don't know. The iPad lineup is messy. I feel like this is the thing now that we are having to get our heads around, is that Apple is debuting so many new different kinds of products in a way that they just didn't 5 or 10 years ago. And the lineups are getting very big. We've talked plenty about how in the not too distant future, we will have probably 7 iPhone models on sale at one time in Apple stores, which is ridiculous, really. And now we're about to get the new low-cost MacBook. The Mac lineup will be as big as ever, pretty much. And the iPad lineup is already pretty large. AirPods Pro, we're getting new AirPods Pro next year that will sit alongside the current ones. So there will be 5 different kinds of AirPods. So this is just the direction we're going in. But it does mean that kind of pricing and understanding what all this stuff is for or where it lies gets harder and harder.
Yeah, I am a hypocrite when it comes to this. I'll just admit it. It's like, I do think we all need choices, and it's great to have all of these options, but then I also really miss the days where we just had like one product for each category. And if you didn't like it, you didn't buy it. You just pick something else. Go buy an Android phone or whatever the case is. If you need 1,000 different options, and that's what you got. But there was one iPhone, there was one iPad, there was one iPod, there was technically 2 MacBooks, right? There was usually the MacBook and then the MacBook Pro. That's okay. But, it wasn't as convoluted as it is now. There was only one Apple Watch. Like, you get where I'm going, but I also really like that you have options. So I don't know. I think where I'm at.
There clearly is a business case for expanding into new markets. And I think, for example, the new MacBook will be really popular. But the iPhone Air proves that is not always the case, that more product is not always necessarily successful. And that part of the appeal of Apple was the simplicity of the buying decision, that you would walk into an Apple store and say you wanted an iPhone 5, and do you want it in black or do you want it in white? And there are like 2 or 3 different storage configurations, and that is it. That's all the decision making you've got to do.
But I'd argue that some of these, that you like the iPhone Air, that hurts business too, because now you're getting reports on how that device was a failure and people just assume it wasn't any good, where in reality, it's actually a really good device. And now you're pissing off all the people who bought that and want to keep using that phone in the future and getting upgrades and, 2nd gen, 3rd gen, and they can't because you discontinued it because you made too many products and it's not doing as well as the others, so you're just cutting it.
I mean, it's quite a sort of famous part of Apple's history that when Steve Jobs returned to the company, he saw all of these different products on sale and he cut them right down, and he used that quadrant system to work out if it's pro or consumer, and if it's, I think it was portable or desktop as well. And while that wouldn't necessarily apply today in the same way, I think that there would be a case for streamlining some of these products and keeping them more updated, making sure that the pace of innovation is faster. Because I do wonder, with something like the Apple Watch, if it wasn't for the Apple Watch Ultra, would the pace of innovation on the standard Apple Watch have been a little bit more aggressive? Would we be looking at a better Pro iPhone this year if there was no iPhone Air? Yeah. And same goes for the iPad lineup. What if it was just the entry-level iPad in mini and standard size, and then the iPad Pro in its 2 sizes, and there was no iPad Air? I don't know. I mean, maybe this isn't true because some of these middle products are really popular. But we complain sometimes as well when these devices don't have enough changes or we don't see enough innovation. But I feel like it's because the innovation is being spread across a much larger array of products.
I mean, I kind of look at it as all the same, especially with the Apple Watch. Like the Apple Watch, that innovation basically is the Ultra. But then I think along the way, Apple realized we're going to have to price this kind of high and not everyone is going to need this stuff. So maybe we just keep doing what we're doing with the Iconic now because it became iconic. Apple Watch that everyone knows and loves, and we keep updating and improving that little by little. And then we take some of our bigger, more ambitious shots with the Ultra. And if you want to buy that, cool, but you don't have to, and you can get, and eventually now it's like trickle down. So you're getting some of those features from the Ultra anyways, or actually in this case, it's trickle up because the Ultra was behind this past generation. So I mean, I like I said, I'm a hypocrite. I want all these products, but I also don't. So I don't know. I'm sure a lot of us feel the same way. It's a love-hate thing. We're expecting the iPad mini in Q3 of 2026, which is kind of a long time from now, and I'm bummed about that. I thought that was going to be a Q1 product. And wait, when did we get we got that one spring, right? The recent one? It was this year.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, enjoy your iPad mini 7 for another year or so, folks, because it's going to be a little bit. And yeah, let us know how you feel about the updates to Hartley's news about, I guess, returning the Vision Pro again. And also the iPad mini that might be Pro, but not really. Let us know in the comments, emails, all that. And we'll catch everybody in next week's episode.